Hey, Anthony, we're here. I just activated it. I guess it's working better now. You said you were going to be on the road. Can you hear me?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, so I'm still trying to get some others. I have a few other people who marked that they were going to attend. I'm just sending out invitations, just kind of at random. I can add people to the stream. I have already for the banner. I have you added.
All right, cool. Go Beans. Dang.
I'm going to turn off the cam and mute just for the moment.
All right, cool.
All right, so Mr. Tillman, I was just, for everybody who's listening, I was just out with Anthony. We were in the town of District Heights, where Anthony is a commissioner. Anthony, can you tell anybody who's listening some stuff about District Heights? Because I didn't know all that much about the town until I started talking with you and Mayor Medlock.
Yeah, so pretty much, District Heights is a great municipality. It's pretty much one of the oldest municipalities in Prince George's County. Uh, I've been living in District Heights for 12 years, and you know, and it's like, of course, when something happens in I'm running for a commissioner to change that mindset that we're all one city, and it's time for us to take hold our own selves accountable for what's happening in our own communities and step up and start local. It was great. One thing about me is I'm trying to start local and build my way up. So
And you're currently working with a delegate, Nick Charles, who endorsed Peter Francho. Mr. Irvin, we have you here in the stream. About to unmute you if you want to. Oh, you're here.
I am. You kind
Hey,
of
Chris,
caught me off guard. I'm in line at the store.
I got the big Chiron for you, Chris Irvin, candidate for delegate in Baltimore's 41st district. Out here probably getting something for somebody else because he's such a good person. Chris, welcome to the show. Please tell us some stuff about you, your campaign, the 41st district, Northwest Baltimore, trucking, whatever else you want to talk about.
Wow, you really caught me off guard. Good evening, everybody. Can you give me about 2 minutes?
Hey, you got it. Mr. Tillman is still here. He can still talk about in District Heights how he's a candidate, how we've gotten at least 15 yard signs up just in the past couple of days, how the current mayor is threatened by your candidacy. Do you want to talk about the current mayor and the old mayor and your relationship with them?
Well, pretty much like I said, man. It's just I think it's time for us to start fresh. One of my slogan is pretty much strong community support equals results. As a commissioner, I'm going to have to work with whoever is elected and the whole body to move our city forward. And of course, our previous mayor was Jonathan Medlock, who just recently got appointed to represent District 6 on the county council. So, we're extremely happy that he's, stepping up into that leadership role for our whole county. And of course, our vice mayor, she's actually taking over the vice mayor role. And me and Richard actually saw her out today, campaigning as well, knocking on doors. So I will say that, you know, regardless of what anybody says about me, you know, I'm a great candidate, and I do a lot for my own city, and I represent constituents from District 25 for the past year and a half with Delegate Nick Charles, who's the chair of the delegation for the for the General Assembly. So it's like, I have the experience. I'm already accessible, and I'm just trying to do better for my own city. And I think that's what we should do is, do great in our own communities, and it helps support each other. Real strong community support.
Agreed. Wait, hold on. Oh, No. Now our friend Bear. Go ahead, Chris. I'm still sending the link around to people.
So, good evening. My name is Christopher Irvin. I run for the House of Delegates in Maryland's 41st District. Um, as Richard pointed out, my background is mostly in trucking, transportation, but legislatively, I've been working in reentry and criminal justice reform for quite a few years now, with some successes that people may be familiar with, attaining the right to vote for felons immediately, all based on the old principle of no taxation without representation. The issue there was that while you're on parole and or probation, you are mandated to work. And so how dare you be prohibited from participating in the electoral process? Our other big win was getting the felony expungement provision, the first in the history of the state of Maryland. Yes, they send you to, they tell you to go to expungement clinics without observing that the number one charge that people are incarcerated for is possession with the intent to distribute, and that intent was determined by the arresting officer. So we were able to get two very large issues through that I, in fact, championed. Um, it's just all a part of the dynamic. It's time for advocacy led electoral process. We need advocates in government. We don't just need people who need a job. We need actual advocates in place. So thank you for bringing me in, Richard.
Hey, thank you, Chris. I've worked with Chris in the past in Central Committee campaign, City Council campaign, in the race for delegate this time. I believe there are 5 candidates in the district, if I'm correct.
That's correct.
Chris is one of the candidates. Chris is the candidate who I'm definitely going to do the most to support. Chris, is out of curiosity, in your part of the city, who is winning the sign game? In Prince George's, we have 4x8s all over the place, and a lot of candidates don't knock doors. What does it look like in Northwest Baltimore?
So the odd thing is that you're not seeing, at least not for the delegates race, even the senators races. You're not seeing any of our delegates or senators signs up as of yet. You mostly see the signs of people running for governor. I thought that was pretty odd, to tell you the truth. Mine are coming now. I do have breaking news, Richard, which I shared with you, but it's not quite public yet, so I don't think I will break it right now, although I'll be happy to break it on your show in the future. But yeah, we're not seeing the signs of candidates yet, other than those for governor. That being said, Francho has the most that I've seen. Peter Francho is by far in the lead on that note. Even though Tom Perez recently got the endorsement of, I believe it was the Washington Post. So there's a lot happening at that in that governor's race.
Yeah, the person who is working with the Francho campaign to put his 4x8s up, or at least has in the past, is a young man by the name of Tyler Wills, Duval High School class of 2015, and has already done the work to where Francho said that Tyler was the reason Francho was able to get the most big signs up in advance of the Preakness.
Yeah, they're everywhere. I mean, even from Northwest Baltimore. So as you go up into Pikesville or into Randallstown, what have you, you see Francho everywhere, and it's clearly not just signs just put anywhere. They're in pretty strategic locations. So Tyler's definitely getting his job done.
Duval strong. What about for you for governor? I'm assuming you don't pick who you want for governor simply based on the yard signs. What does Chris Irvin, the advocate and prospective delegate, want out of his chief executive over the next 4 to 8 years?
So for me, my number 1, 2, 3 issue that I'm looking at, obviously, a substantial criminal justice reform platform, which includes sentencing reform, which includes reentry. I don't think anyone should run for office in or related to Baltimore City or even for Maryland at this point that is not discussing specifically re-entry as a part of their platform. Everyone's talking crime just because that's kind of the popular term. But when they talk crime, the very next thing that comes out of everyone's mouth is repeat offenders. Um, that's a re-entry based discussion. If we don't do anything to break the cycle of repeat offenders, then we're not fulfilling the role of governance, much less a individuals serving. Um, so re-entry, obviously jobs, because I think that's a major component of re-entry. But we're also not discussing trucking and transportation. And why I raised that, I've been in trucking for 20 years. You know that my reentry program is a CDL reentry program. And the advantages that Maryland has for transportation are unmatched in the entire country. Nowhere else. And this is the first time that I'm saying this publicly. You know, I talk about it all the time, Richard, privately, but there's no other state, no other city besides Baltimore that has the access to the transportation and logistics grid that Baltimore does. There is
Right.
no city in the country that has access to 95 and 70, which will take you totally across the country and vertical in the vertical plane. There's nowhere else in the country that has access by highway, rail, and the port
Right.
that Baltimore does. With a deeper port now, so that we can bring in more tonnage and therefore take on heavier vessels. There is not Newark, New Jersey, not Philadelphia, no other city in the country, including the West Coast, has the access that we do. And yet, for our jobs platform, and I get it, you know, that I have a 16, well, now 17-year-old. I get the conversations of STEM and STEAM, but they do not transfer to all of our population. And for those who don't have the acumen or the want to go into those types of fields, for people who want to put their hands on things and work, our truck and transportation and logistics area is unmatched, and we are not taking advantage of it because the people in place now just they don't get it.
No, I'm with you 100%. I was at a fundraiser with Francho in Baltimore County 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that was one of the main things we highlighted. If we properly dredge the harbor, if we properly link all of the rail, because we have existing CSX tracks that could do both commuter rail and freight rail. We have a lot of that could have you basically, we could be the main shipping port, not just for the entire East Coast, but basically everywhere from Chicago to Portland, Maine to Miami. We could be the port of not just the port, but the primary transportation sector. And that includes people as a resource, moving people in between New York all the way down to Virginia. So it's not just I'm with you. The transportation and logistics industry is one that is going to be paramount in our state's future. And that's an area where absolutely your expertise is going to be requested and needed. You got your friend Barry O'Connell here. Barry, you know Chris, I'm sure.
We haven't formally met yet, but I'm enjoying what I'm hearing. The man knows something.
Thank you, sir. The one thing that I would want to add, and then I won't hog the microphone anymore.
Mm-hmm.
For as much, every time that I raise CDL,
wait, it went mute. Hey, Chris, it went mute.
Can't hear you, Chris.
Great.
Okay.
We don't consider the back office support that has to come in these fields. You're going to need accountants. You're going to need logistics minded people. You're going to need mechanics. You're going to need a full range of people. What I often tell folks is that think of Bethlehem Steel. What Bethlehem Steel was to Baltimore City, that was one company. This industry is comprised of all of the job fields that made that company optimal. All of those fields are still here. All of the opportunities for those fields are still here, which was why they built TradePoint. So why aren't we focusing on on the trades properly and the back office supports, we would create an environment in Maryland and in Baltimore in particular that is unmatched in the country. There's no reason in the world that we should have unfulfilled job roles or people who need jobs and we're not properly catering to them with what we possibly have on the horizon if we have the proper political relationships that can build the proper corporate relationships that can take advantage of this complete environment.
Well, thank you, Chris. Again, anybody who's listening, Chris is a candidate for delegate, the 41st Northwest Baltimore. Not only is he a staunch advocate that's already gotten results, he is helping people on the daily, weekly, monthly get long-term jobs, getting people into a place where they know not just they have money in their pocket, but they have purpose in their living. And that is essential if people actually want to reduce crime in the long term. So again, for anybody who's listening, definitely want to listen to what Mr. Irvin has to say, even about his ideas about having a single stream waste plant in Baltimore, which would create a large number of jobs and actually increase the amount of recycling. With the current recycling system, a lot of things we think are recycled actually get thrown in the trash. If we recycled it, we made the union jobs, we'd actually be doing more for the city. We could do more compost in the process. And this is stuff that Chris has been talking about for years before it's become kind of a national theme around saving our waste.
You know, I try to give Montgomery County their credit. They have one of the most incredible recycling operations, municipal recycling operations that I've seen by far. And I've seen a lot of them, having spent 15 years in the waste industry myself. I actually set up a kind of a field trip to take the leadership from Baltimore City to Montgomery County to visit that location at Shady Grove. For whatever reason, we couldn't pull it together. And I think it's a shame that we couldn't pull it together. If we want to get better in Baltimore City, if we want to get better in Maryland as a whole, we should jump at every opportunity to visit a site that's doing some things very correctly. That being said, Baltimore City has some great folks trying to do the best they can. It would benefit Baltimore to take a field trip to Montgomery County at Shady Grove to see how they're running their operation. Thanks for that, Rich. That's one of the things I often forget to bring up sometimes.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about changing our renewable energy portfolio. Where right now, over in Western Maryland, there's people who burn wood pulp. Horrible for the air quality, horrible for the soil quality around. And they get tax credits as though they're installing solar panels. In Baltimore, the people who are burning the trash at the Wheelabrator giant turbine in downtown are still, to my knowledge, getting tax credits as though they are doing a service when all it is done. Rich. Oh, go ahead.
Do you know who wrote?
Oh no, I was listening to you, but I did want to just add. It is owned. Resco is owned by Wheelabrator, but that is also a waste management company. Make no mistake about
it. Barry, who wrote the bill for what?
The person who wrote the bill for the tax break for the Wheelabrator Fry incinerator happens to be running for lieutenant governor. Mm-hmm. Her name's Aruna Miller. Mm-hmm. And she didn't give a damn about the pollution. She didn't really care about the people. She worried about the political considerations and the lobbyists and the contributions and everything else. Senior leadership told her, write the bill. She wrote the bill. She wrote a lot of dirty bills. You know, she wrote the bill to keep kids in Baltimore County and Baltimore City schools from getting air conditioning. You know, I mean, she's got a lousy record, but that trash incinerator is a disgrace, and it's a case of democratic corruption that should be addressed, and it's a shameful mark on our history.
I agree wholeheartedly, Barry. I think not just the Wheelabrator plant, which, well, I care about the people there. Here's Ian Miller. Hello, Ian. So not only we talk about the trash incinerator, but also the Western Maryland wood pulp burners, which would have been in her congressional district. For everybody that's here the boy that's walking around with his camera under his chin is Ian. Oh, he turned his camera off. That's Ian Miller. Ian is a candidate. I'm going to give you a banner. Ian is a candidate for the Democratic Central Committee in Baltimore County. Ian, would you like to introduce yourself to the people here and the people listening?
Yeah, hi. This is a fun surprise. Hi, I'm Ian. I'm the campaign manager for the Ruben Amaya for Delegate campaign. I am also running for Central Committee in 44B, and I'm also a leading organizer with the Baltimore County Legal Justice Alliance. And we are working to defeat State's Attorney Scott Schellenberger and elect Robbie Leonard and put the structures of accountability in place to make sure that Baltimore County is a justice and equitable place, and that we can really overturn really the horrors that are going on within the criminal justice system in Baltimore County. But thanks for having me, Rich. This is
hey, I had slots. I wanted to invite you. I think that right now is a really good time, especially for people of Baltimore County. What are you seeing in the Baltimore County District 1 race between the two main candidates? What are you seeing?
So I am actually going to be supporting Danielle Singley, who is a third candidate who is now in the race. She's been a leading organizer with the Randallstown NAACP. She's done a lot of work around Security Square Mall and the revitalization. That's a really big issue to voters in Western Baltimore County. As far as what I'm seeing, I mean, I think Pat Young and Paul Dongera are definitely more visible. Their signs are out right now. They're better funded campaigns, but definitely the grassroots progressive pick would be Danielle Singley. But I really think very highly of Paul Dongera. He's done a lot of really great work holding developers accountable who really have a stranglehold on Baltimore County politics. He's done a lot of really good work holding Tom Quirk accountable, who is one of the worst council people in Baltimore County. He's probably worse than every single Republican that's there. But Pat Young is also a really great guy. You know, it's a different dynamic than the traditional Paul Dongera or Dongera family versus Tom Quirk, in that, you know, Pat Young is a family man. He's a veteran, and he's genuinely very well liked. So it's a different dynamic, but yeah, I mean, Pat Young's taking money from the developers, and but I mean, like he's genuinely pretty well liked. I would definitely say he's the favorite. He's definitely the most well financed. But it'll definitely be a race to watch. There's a lot going on in Western Baltimore County. There's a lot of insurgency.
You can go over more of the races out there, because the Baltimore County Council District 1, when you told me to go out there and just to look at the number of signs, I don't know if I've ever seen as many signs in Catonsville for anybody except maybe Joe Biden, as many as there are for Paul Dongera right now.
Yeah, but Paul's doing really well. And like you have to remember too is that in Catonsville, what was going to be done with Spring Grove has always been a really big issue, and the big bad developer Steve Whalen in Baltimore County was pushing to build a shopping center, which really the Dongeras themselves really led a lot of the fight to prevent that from happening and to protect Spring Grove, which has now actually just been sold to UMBC. Yeah, so District 1, that is a big battle going on in Baltimore County. I think the biggest race to watch anywhere in Maryland outside of the governor's race is the state's attorney's race in Baltimore County. There is a lot of energy to get rid of Scott Schellenberger, and there's a lot of political education that's going on his horrific record, that we in Baltimore County not only have the worst prosecutor in Maryland, but also one of the worst on the East Coast. And his record is so atrocious that it is attracting national attention. That's a race to watch. You know, I got to pitch District 10. There's a lot going on here. So Jay Jalisi and Ben Brooks, who are two of the current delegates in District 10, along with the Speaker of the House, Adrian Jones, are running against each other for state Senate. That's going to be a really competitive fierce battle. There's going to be a lot of money spent there. But the Speaker of the House is also running a slate of candidates in District 10, including N. Scott Phillips and Jennifer White. Now, at the same time, there are two insurgent progressive candidates that are running, one of which, two of which I'm personally supporting. While I'm running Ruben Amaya's campaign, Ruben Amaya is 21. Our entire campaign staff is really age 16 to 21. We're a group of students running a very low budget operation up against really, really great odds. But we're out there grinding, we're out there hitting doors, and we're really building a movement in District 10.
And we just got Tabco.
Just got Tabco, the teachers union. I will say that every single political insider, whether they were progressive or whether they were establishment, told us that we would not get this, that we did not have the viability to pull this off, that we did not have enough money, that Ruben did not have enough experience. And also a thing that we heard is, like, of course, MSCA wants to secure funding for their goals. And the Speaker of the House has a lot of influence on that. So nobody thought that Ruben would get this endorsement outside of the slate. And it has resulted in a sea change in how people are seeing this race. I think Ruben is really now being seen as a front runner. All of a sudden, there are a lot of elected officials that are liking his posts. Yeah, it's a game changer. You know, the teachers union is the most powerful union in Baltimore County. That's genuinely true everywhere. But you know, if you trust your kids with our educators, you're going to trust your vote with them too. And they have decided that, you know, Ruben running on a platform to set a $70,000 starting salary for public school teachers, raising that across the board. There has, for a long time in Baltimore County, been just severe funding inequities with our public schools. Ruben wants to make sure that our Western schools in Western Baltimore County are getting the funding that they deserve, that we are making sure our school infrastructure is in the 21st century. We're making sure that our classroom sizes aren't too big so we can cultivate learning environments that are actually setting up our children to succeed. And this endorsement is very much has solidified Ruben as a front runner and has really shown that we can build a movement of people that is going to challenge organized money. And I'm a big believer that organized people is more powerful than organized money. And we will certainly see on election day. Something else to see, another candidate to watch in District 10 is Corey Johnson. Corey is really, really an amazing candidate, just like Ruben. She's brilliant. She's running also a insurgent campaign, and she's pretty well financed, actually. She's going to have a lot more money in the get out the vote home stretch. But there's a trend of insurgency that's happening in Baltimore County. And one of the things that I can tell you at the doors is people are really hurting. Especially in District 10, people who are living along the Liberty Road corridor have seen grocery stores disappear in the last decade. And people want access to fresh food. I mean, that is very materially relevant. We need to make sure that that people have access to nutrition, nutritional food to live their best lives. And we're not seeing it in District 10 right now. And people want to see those grocery stores come back. Crime, of course, is, you know, maybe the biggest issue on voters' minds. People are really concerned about holding the police accountable. And gun violence. I mean, I when I was out knocking yesterday, every single person I talked to mentioned the two horrific mass shootings that we've seen recently. And I think what people may not understand about the current political moment that we're living in is that I don't think the rules really matter as much anymore. You know, people have told us with Ruben, it's like, oh, you're 21, that's a liability, but it's a strength. People are really hurting right now. It is a really oftentimes hopeless state of things, and people want something to believe in. And one of the few things that I think is keeping a lot of people hopeful right now that they say is like young people doing what Ruben's doing. You know, young people stepping up and saying, we're not going to accept what's happening in this country, that we're going to acknowledge that our country is headed towards collapse and in its current state. And that may sound bold, that may sound apocalyptic, but when we look at climate change, we're quickly approaching a point of no return. while our leaders sit back in nihilistic apathy. Wealth inequality grows every single year to points that are real indicators of a downturn. And I mean, my parents are both public school teachers, and I think a lot of times we can study what's going on in society by what's happening in the schools. And the schools, I've never seen my parents under so much stress. And the reality is, people want something different. People are ready for a bold, progressive agenda, and that candidates should run on being bold. You know, we live in a world now that is completely overstimulated, and it's how are you going to break through the noise? And Ruben has broken through the noise by saying, yeah, I am young. I'm running to be the youngest ever. I'm running to be the first Latino in the entire history of Baltimore County to hold any elected office, which is crazy in 2022. And that I'm going to run on bold, progressive policies that are popular with the electorate. And I'm going to speak truth to what people are experiencing at a material level. And it's propelled Ruben to be a front runner. And I think District 10 is really a real race to watch. I think 44B is also very interesting. I think we have all of the candidates for the delegate seats now that Kaylin Young has dropped out are women, which is really historic. It's important. There are two Muslim women that are running, Shazia Shah and Aisha Khan. That's really important for young kids in the Muslim community, especially young girls, to see that. That's not something that has happened before, and that's really awesome. Personally, I will be running on a ticket with Senator Charles Sidner, Delegate Sheila Ruth, and Alethea McCaskill. I think that that slate is going to win. I think they're strong. I think, and I really adore all of them. I mean, I think Senator Charles Sidner has the best record of any senator in Baltimore County. I think that he is one of the most important elected officials on the basis of his work to really hold the Baltimore County Police accountable and shed light on what's going on. He took really progressive, really bold, brave stances on the Judiciary Committee on a lot of these police reform bills that we've seen recently. And I'm really proud to be working with him. I think Sheila Ruth is...
Hold on, Ian.
Yeah.
Chris, I really want you to try and give him some backup on this, because people tell me all the time that, quote, Sidner needs to talk up more and Sidner's not there on issues. When I dare to say that right there, neck and neck with Senator Carter, if you're not talking about Senator Sidner, particularly for the local impact of Baltimore County, and then the revitalization of Security Square Mall, which people have been talking about for a decade plus, and now it's happening before our eyes. So can you talk about that real quick? And then Barry, I'm going to talk to you about all kind of Baltimore County stuff.
Absolutely. It's funny. I actually was talking about him in an earlier conversation today. I'm here to tell you all that Charles Sidner, I'm not here to tell you. Ian just stated it. I'm just backing it up. Charles Sidner is the truth. He doesn't speak up for the sake of being seen. He doesn't speak up for the sake of being on the news. He does the work. He makes the phone calls. He gets the background information. He'll have the conversations. He does actual investigative work. Charles Sidner is the man in these areas. And I'm glad you said that, Ian, because, you know, I've had plenty of conversations with him where I wanted information and I needed some education on some things, but I've also gotten calls from him where he's doing the same thing. It doesn't matter who you are, what your station is. If you have some information relative to a topic or concern that Senator Sidner is working on, you're going to hear from him. And I appreciate that. So thanks for raising that, Ian. That's absolutely the truth.
He's also lovely. I mean, he's really funny. He's just a great guy to talk to. And I also want to shout out Delegate Sheila Ruth, who is absolutely the most progressive delegate in Baltimore County. She's done a lot of work. Most recently, she's done a lot of work pushing for reforms as far as criminalization of students in schools. She's also been a Bernie delegate both times. She's a major proponent of universal health care, and definitely a mentor of mine in progressive politics in Baltimore County. She gave Tom Quirk a real run for his money in 2018. Yep. And also, I mean, shout out Alethea McCaskill, who is absolutely lovely. Just a joy to be around, childcare provider, you know, lives and breathes the union. Like we're gonna have a really good team in 44B, and I'm really excited to work with them, and I'm really proud to, you know, have their endorsements and their faith in me.
Absolutely. Barry, I said that you could talk. We have with us the esteemed Belinda Queen, my candidate for county council in District 6. Barry, I said that you could talk, and I think you're a pretty good interviewer. So I'd love to know what Barry O'Connell, political observer extraordinaire, wants to know about that District 6 race and how Belinda Queen is about to win this.
Belinda, I've been watching you for what is it? When did you join my group? 2014, maybe? You've been in Barry's Maryland politics forever.
Yes,
and I enjoy
sir.
you being there.
Thank you so very much. I enjoyed being a part of it. I believe it is my mission for sure to serve the people.
Very much so. Right now, that race seems to be getting tough. I saw that Senate District 25 added Denise to their slate. I don't know how much a Senate district slate is worth anymore. I think the work you did, well, what do you think? Senate slate versus school board. Seems
so I'm
like
not worried about it.
A pulpit.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the slate. I'm not even worried about the endorsements because I believe the voters know. The voters know who is the person who will stand up and speak out. At this point, we all know. I was just sitting here and listening to the young man who was just talking. We all know that we're going through something right in our economy. And I just don't believe that any voter at this point wants to take a chance on someone they don't know who has a record of standing up and speaking out for the people. This is not the time. We've been made too many promises from candidates who have came before us, and they have not fulfilled. We all can see, and I'm sure the voters can see right through the candidates who are running against the Queen, that they're easy to be persuaded, and let's be realistic. We need to make sure that we have someone who is not going to be persuaded, who's going to stand up, who's going to speak out, who's going to be for the people, and it's no doubt that's me.
Well, let's talk a little bit about geographic balance, because in your district in 6, we've got one candidate and only one candidate from inside the Beltway, and we've got 4 candidates from outside the Beltway. And do you think that makes a difference?
Not only does that make a difference, but I'm the only candidate. The only candidate has been part of the Central Coalition for years, where we've been setting up when it comes to even outside the Beltway, the building of the Woodmore Town Center. We were part of that. When it comes to even inside the BJ Shopping Center, we were part of that. When it comes to Camelot, we were part of that. From every part of everything that came through this county, I have been a part of the Central Coalition for years, where we have been a part of that organization who has stood up, who has spoke out, we said no liquor stores in that area. We didn't, when we stood up and said, no, we don't want any more storage units. When developers came to us and they wanted to bring products that didn't have quality building material, or they didn't have what we needed to make sure that we had storm things, we spoke up and spoke out, we stood up, we spoke out, and we said, no, we're not having it. We're not having it. If you don't invest in our community like we should, if you don't give us the same quality, and we even prepared to places that they had in Montgomery County or even outside of the state of Maryland. If you cannot bring that to Prince George's County, then we don't want it. I'm the only candidate that has really done it. It is okay to say, and I love the sisters who are running against me, no offense. I love the fact that some of them are part of the church. I love the fact that some of them has been part of the school system. I love the fact that some of them has been a lawyer and an advocate for people. But that's fine and well. But to be a person who has actually done all them things, who has been an advocate for the people without pay, who has stood up for not only the churches, for the community, for the children, who has a proven record within and who have worked with people outside the Beltway, I am the only candidate that has done it. And I just don't believe that our voters are going to take their chance on people they don't know, especially in today's society.
You are one of my very favorite young progressives. I'll give you that. When people talk about the young progressives, you are one of my very favorite. You and Ed, I think you've done some great work. How do you manage to take so many pictures? Every place you go, you seem to have 100 photos of it.
Well, Barry, I don't know if you remember my grandmother, Mother Mabel Luckett, but one of the things my grandmother used to say to me is pictures are history. And it's history. So I believe in taking pictures because it's history of where you've been. It shows where we've been as a county. It shows where we've been as a community and where we have been as a person. And so as I grew and got mature, I've learned it is more than history. I've learned it is proof. It's proof that you were at a certain place at a certain time. So I love to take pictures to show, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what was going on. Here's who was there. And it not only that, I've learned also since I retired, when I was working before 2008, before I retired, I wanted to be a part of so many of these events, but it's really hard when you have to work and you have to take care of family. So I've also learned is now I get the opportunity when people who have to work, who can't come to these events, I can bring the event to them. I can go live. I can share pictures. And that's what we're supposed to do as activists. We're supposed to make sure that we're covering people who may want to be here and couldn't afford that ticket, or maybe who had to work or had children and couldn't come, but at least they can know what went on, who was there, and they can feel like they are part of it. So this is why I do it. I take the time, take pictures and share.
I've got to ask you about one of the events.
I do care.
Can I ask you about one of the events?
Yes.
You took the best pictures at
The
Franchos.
1,200
women lunch, which turned out to be the 1,200 women lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me something. Was that trick photography? Was there only 30 people in the room, or was that really 1,200 people?
You know, I was watching, and when Delegate Barnes got up there and he started talking, and he said to Monique Husband, he said, I wish you, the delegate, he said, Della Walker, I wish you can see what I'm seeing from up here. I said, I can imagine what he is seeing. So what I did was went back to a corner and I held my camera up and I took a picture so people could see from the corner, you know, because as a photographer, you think like that. And so I'm getting corner angles because I understood what he was saying with if people could see from another angle of how many really people was in the room. And so that's why I took some pictures and shared it on social media. You can really see what other people are seeing. So definitely taller than me. I had to hang the camera, you know, put up a little higher so people could really see it was a lot of people in that room. So no, it was not trick photography. It was for real.
I wonder who the favorite is in Prince George's County for governor right now. Because with that,
let me tell you guys, I tell people all the time, I hear people, I understand. And I understand so many people feel like it is time for an African-American governor. I get you. It is, eventually it is time. But unfortunately, in today's society, it is not time. It is not going to happen. We don't want another Ben Jealous to happen. We voted for Ben Jealous. That was an African-American governor. And what happened when it got to finally win? He didn't get it. It's not going to happen. So let's not make that same mistake. Now more than ever, we need to be wise and smart voters. The next best thing, if we can get our first African-American women lieutenant governor, Monique Anderson, walk in there, how good would that be a step up, you guys? I believe that Frida Franchos is the best candidate at this point. I honestly believe that. I believe that if we want to make sure that we get a Democratic in there, then we need to put strong support behind him and make sure that we send him to the governor's house. Franchos is the best candidate. It's no doubt, you guys, that if we want a Democrat in the governor's house, that's your choice. Get out the vote. Let's make sure that we send a Democrat, and your best choice and your safest choice to make sure that we're getting a strong Democrat. I suggest that you vote for the Franchos Anderson Walker team because that's where my vote is going.
And I have to say, for everybody listening, not only is Francho in the lead, not only does he have the most money, not only does he have the best track record, but in the Black community, especially in Prince George's, they are putting their weight behind community candidates like Belinda Queen, like Latasha Ward, like Monica Roebuck. Francho is not just throwing his lot in with people because of their title or because of their power. We are truly building a bottom-up coalition that now includes Belinda Queen, Black Caucus Chairman Darrell Barnes, who is rumored to be the next Secretary of Commerce in the great state of Maryland, Delegate Nick Charles, the chair of the Prince George's delegation. Even in gorgeous Prince George's, with the work of people like myself and Belinda, I think that Peter Francho and Monique Anderson Walker are going to be, at worst, a close second in this county. And I truly think they can win it. If you go through our county, especially in Belinda's areas, Peter is winning the sign game 10-1, 11-1. In fact, it's not even clear who's number 2 in the yard sign. So there's clear respect for the track record and performance, especially among Black seniors. especially among Black seniors.
Richard, can I throw out something? At one point, and I like Baker. I don't think he's a terrible candidate. In fact, if he won, I wouldn't feel terrible. Okay. I mean, I think Baker and Perez, they've been in office in Maryland. That means something. But I still think Pete's the best. But at one point, I tried to get hold of Baker. I couldn't get a phone number from him. Call up people who knew him, contacts. Oh, I can't give it to you. Or no, I don't have it. Or whatever. They tell me a story. And I've got Peter Francho's cell phone number. And it was like, I was really proud about that, except I found out everybody, just about everybody in Maryland has got Peter's cell phone number.
Right.
You can call up and get him. And that's different.
Important.
You know.
And that's how it should be. That's how I am as a candidate. Also, I give everybody my cell phone number. If you look out there on my signs, the pictures out there, that is my personal cell phone number. I'm gonna be honest with you. I have a problem when I go out to events and our elected leaders give you the number to their office. We elected you to represent. Don't tell me to call you between 9 and 5 and I get someone at your office. I need you. I need to reach you. I think that's so important. I think it's so important that we realize the voters need to reach you. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. When I first got elected on the school board, you guys, I was giving my cell phone out. It got a little bit hectic. I had to learn how to balance it. So my voicemail got a little full, but I eventually learned. I really, when somebody say, your voicemail is filled full, I was like, oh no, I had to learn how to balance it. I had to learn, you gotta take a certain day and make sure a certain time that you are listening to your voicemail and you're answering it, because it will happen, especially when you first get elected, but you learn to do it because there's nothing more important than helping someone personally, knowing that you're doing it personally, not putting it off on someone else to do. I didn't run for someone else to represent people. I ran to represent people, neither is Peter. And that's so important that we're giving out our personal cell phone number. So that is an awesome thing to do.
Absolutely.
And you know what another thing he's doing, Barry? He's inviting all of us to celebrate with him in that big old governor's house. And I can't wait to do that. We're going to have a big old cookout. I'm going to bring my hot sauce, y'all.
You know, about 3 years ago, I was with Peter's father. And we got into a deep discussion over, do you think Peter will run for governor? And I'll tell you what Douglas Francho, he's passed away now, but he was 94 at the time. He said, Peter will not run for governor unless he is convinced that Maryland needs him.
That's it.
That's the difference. This isn't about Peter's ego. This isn't about Peter needs a job. Peter doesn't need anything. Peter is running because he feels a responsibility to the people. But hey, can I throw something out? Because we ripped through District 10 and I want to point something out. There's a very special young lady, Corey Johnson. To say she's brilliant is not enough. I got to tell you something. Corey was head of the debate team at Towson. Okay. She took them to the national championship, and an all-black team from Towson University went to the national championship and shut down Harvard and shut down Berkeley and shut down Stanford. She shut down the biggest schools in the country. She is a powerhouse. And
she also she works tirelessly. To my current knowledge, she is knocking doors basically every single day. I will say that I think that there's only going to be at most 2 members of the speaker's slate that get elected. And I could see Corey Johnson or Ruben Amaya being that third person. Chris, Mr. Irvin, who's a candidate for delegate in District 41, which abuts District 10 almost. He was talking about the agenda for governor. He said in a very, very important public safety platform and a serious consideration for how to turn repeat offenders into purpose-driven individuals who have enough money in their pocket to want to go home every day. Madam Queen, how are we going to make sure that Francho's Office of Returning Citizens as a statewide institution does that, outside of course, recommending Mr. Irvin for that board?
You know, one good thing is we have Mr. Burrows, who's really on that. We have Latasha Ward, who's on the team, and they really work really hard with programs for returning citizens. It is so many great partnerships that they have to work in. Having all of these fairs and community meetings and expungements has really been awesome. But we got to make sure that we have homes, affordable homes, and places for them to go, which is so very important. And we have to make sure that we have trades and trainings to make sure that they don't return. So together we will do this, and we will have to do this. If we want a change within our county, we have to make sure that we have these hubs all over our county to support not only the returning citizens, the ones who are out here, who are getting their little butts, these little young kids in trouble right now, to make sure they're getting everything they need so they can be successful and they can be productive citizens in Prince George's County. And that is important also.
No, fully agree with you with having Latasha Ward running for delegate in District 24. I'm also supporting her, having her for that reentry board where she can help with, once people are out, you just need to give people a gift basket every now and again. And Tasha has done that phenomenally in getting people food and getting people COVID tests, masks, getting stuff delivered for people and having things in all of the small communities of District 24. When we scale that out with statewide money and statewide operation, it's going to be really successful. And it shows you from myself, I support Peter in large part because of the outstanding track record where he was fighting Miller and fighting Bush when I was a child. Barry for the personal relatability. Belinda for you know that you can contact Peter, because if you can't contact Peter, we can call Manny. We can't call Manny, we can call Ben.
Yeah.
We can't call Ben, we can call Jennifer.
Yeah.
We have so many people in the Francho team that are close to us that has really built out the model, I think, for long-term statewide candidacies. I think Mr. Tillman here too.
Yeah, and I'm so glad he's doing, because that brought me back when you was talking about making sure that we're taking care of returning citizens, but to make sure that we're investing in these local nonprofits. I mean, Latasha has the Solid Foundation. Anthony Tillman has Make Smart Cool. But Make Smart Cool. But it is so very important that we invest into these organizations and give back within our local communities. My problem is we have a lot of nonprofits that haven't been taking care of the local community. Same way our developers, they come here, they develop in our county, and then the money is taken out. But when we know that we have nonprofits that are doing for our people locally, that are investing in it locally, that are investing in the next generation to make sure that generational wealth is kept right here in our county, in Prince George's County, that is so very important, and we must continue to do that. And I know, being a part of Francho's team, that we will continue to do that, right, and make sure, because it's been a lack of that done. I'm not going to be honest with you guys. It has nothing to do with the government. It has something to do with our county leaders. Our local leaders have not been investing in locally. And we have to make sure that that is done, because generations after generation, we have to get generational wealth in Prince George's County to make sure it continues. If we really want to continue to have a wealthy African-American county right here in Prince.
And direct to that point, I talked about this on Black Rose Garden earlier. Every county council member in Prince George's gets, I believe it's $100,000 a year that they get to give away to whatever nonprofits they want. That can have a grand impact on whether you choose to do it in economic development versus returning citizens. Whatever you choose to spend that on is very important. For the smallest nonprofits, they actually are very often able to do more with less money. Latasha does a lot with not that much money with the Solid Foundation. Anthony Tillman does a lot with Make Smart Cool with not that much money. So the county council members definitely need to better highlight why they're spending. If you're in a high crime county council district and you spend no money on anti-crime nonprofits out of the allotted money, that's a problem. Anthony Tillman does also the Governor's Office of Community Initiatives, which directly distributes money. Right now, Stephen McAdams is heading it. Under a Francho administration, rather than people having to do grant writing, which is effectively just a standardized test for a whole lot of nonprofits, I think that the elected officials have a duty to see who's having the most community results and write recommendations for them. It should be a much easier process. Also using GuideStar. I think, Anthony, you know about GuideStar, I'm sure, that rates how all the nonprofits do. All the nonprofits basically that use GuideStar can list how they're spending their money, what the results are, blah, blah, blah. We can use that instead of making people write grants. So these are just some of the little things I'm hoping under a Francho administration we can do. And Francho has already said that's something he wants to do, using the nonprofits as one of our tools to fight crime.
You know, one thing that nobody's talking about here that I think is important is, let's throw the comptroller's race into the mix. In something that I found very, very good news was Brooke Lehrman has announced that Courtney Green will be senior staff in her administration, and that she will be the seat at the table for Prince George's County. So she felt it was important to have a Black woman sitting at the table making the decisions as senior staff, and I think she should be congratulated on that. And also, you know, they do have a little bit of money to give away to nonprofits, so
Awesome.
some people may want to cultivate the comptroller's office.
That's awesome. And Courtney's, I really like Courtney. She's a smart young lady, and she is definitely a community activist. She does a great job with the young people. I know where her heart is, and is investing back in the community. So that was definitely a smart move.
Absolutely. And I hope
she's
she
a good
thinks to
person.
make smart cool, because I went and spoke to her class when she was at Andrews. So she better think of make smart cool if she watching when she's thinking about giving that money away, because Peter Franchot gave us a proclamation for Make Smart Cool 2 weeks ago for our 8th year
Yes.
anniversary. So
Yes.
everybody love Make Smart Cool until it's time to donate. So let's all make sure we donate in real life, not just online.
That's it. That's it. And that's very important. I'm glad you said that, Anthony, because what we don't realize is, you know, these small nonprofits, it does take money to run them. And with programs like you have, when, I mean, and I remember you had, I mean, even coming to the library, when, and even at the church, when you had the chess club going on, which is so smart, teaching the kids how to make that make move. When you also had the reading program and seeing people come and read. These are programs that invest. I mean, it's not as simple as just having a book in a library to read. These are youth. They expect fun. They expect games. They expect to be fed. They expect sometimes little rewards. On our job, we expect, you know, we go to work every day and we get a paycheck on Friday, but every now and then we look forward to that little certificate they give us, that little 5-year pen they give us, or that little pat on the back. Well, our kids want the same thing. So we have to invest in them. So we can, and it costs to do that. So we have to make sure that we are investing in these programs, because they always say, if we don't invest in this generation now, we're going to pay later. But not only that, if we don't take the time and invest in them, the wrong person will. And that will lead them down the wrong road. And that's what has been happening to our young people, because we haven't been taking enough time to invest in them, to show them love, to show them that we care, to give them that little bit of money they need in their pocket so they can be productive citizens. And they're picked up when now a lot of wrong people have invested in our kids. We got to take our youth back and make sure we are doing that. So thank you, as always, Anthony, for what you are doing. I mean, it takes a village, and together we will continue to do it.
Well, thank you. Well, hey, I know for a fact that me and you, we visited a lot of schools together, and we definitely, we definitely continue to work in advocacy for the youth. And I know, I'd like to thank you as well, because it's going to be hard replacing you. You know what I'm saying? It's like I spoke about that on the roundtable last week, and I was telling people, I said, it's going to be hard to remain, to get that advocacy back that you set for standard for the Board of Education. And our kids deserve that advocacy from every board member, all year long. I mean,
Yes.
you had a part-time job as a board member, and you made it a full-time obligation to help our children every single day. And I remember, I remember I CC you on everything, and I missed that because I can't do that no more, because now people don't call me back, but it's okay. But I still CC everybody and their mama on an email when a parent calls me about education, because it's important for that accountability. And I think that's what we need to do right now. I think this whole election that we're having right now is just not about winning. It's about accountability and
Yes.
accessibility. People now, these residents these days, been hurt by so many people just
Come on
making up
now.
false promises.
Come on
Right
now.
now, it's about who's accessible. Who can I call when I have an issue? And I think me and Burry and Richard
Richard.
talked about that
Mhm.
last time. Remember, Burry? We said, look,
Oh, yeah.
people these days now, they don't care about your promises no more. They want to be able to call you on the phone and complain and tell you about the issue.
Yeah, and they want it done. See, that's another thing, you know. And when I say this, I drive the same streets, I stop at the same stores. I went in Restaurant Depot today, and if you guys go there tomorrow, you'll see the big old potholes in that shopping center. I'm like, who's responsible? Is the people who own this property responsible? Is the county responsible? How many? I mean, it's like 3 big potholes right there in that little shopping center. When I drive up and down the street from George Palmer Highway or Central Avenue, seeing how high the grass is, I get so upset. And I'm like, here we go again with State Highway. Okay, maybe, you know, it's growing. Yes, it's growing really tall, but it's a shame when you have to see pedestrians walking, and the grass is coming up to their knees. Who is responsible? That we know who is responsible, but why aren't they doing it? And why aren't we holding them accountable? And not only that, why aren't our elected leaders saying this? I see it as a resident. I'm driving the street. You not driving these same streets? You not shopping our communities? So, you know, that's one of the biggest things I have. We got to speak out on these things. And yeah, I'll get it. We can keep calling things in the 311 and we can keep reporting them, but we need to make sure that the people who are getting paid as elected leaders are being accountable for their jobs also.
I'm not sure they're really accountable to anyone. I mean, they get into office and suddenly their best friend in the whole world is a developer.
Come on.
And I worry about that. I worry about the amount of, like, Baltimore County is a great example. They just had an expose of a county employee who was taking bribes from a developer for the last more than 10 years. And only when the inspector general found that he on a Baltimore County email was discussing the bribes with the developer did they discover that he was doing something wrong. I mean, and he got caught because he was discussing sports tickets to a championship game, I think Madison Square Garden. But a lot of these folks get into office and suddenly they find out that a man's willing to walk into their office or meet them for a drink or get together somewhere, and they slide them an envelope, and they open the envelope and they find out it's a lot more money than they make in their office. You know, and that kind of stuff. We have to hold these people accountable. We have to say to them, why are you supporting developers? You know, one thing you mentioned earlier, we were discussing the District 1 race in Baltimore County. Kathy Bevins in District 6 resigned. You know, she dropped out of the race unexpectedly, which left the county executive in an uncomfortable situation because she was his winning vote. She was the swing vote on council. When she dropped out, possibly because she was talking to the FBI, maybe she got forced to step down. But anyway, when she stepped down, suddenly the machine no longer can guarantee that they control the vote. You know? Now, I don't want to accuse anybody of taking bribes in Prince George's County, but, you know, I don't have to say they're taking bribes. I think everybody knows what's going on. But something, I don't think Angela's going to have 6 votes on the council, you know, and that's crucial. Okay. She's not going to have 6 votes. When she wants to put through anything, when she wants to put out a resolution for something and goes to the council, who's she going to ask? She going to ask Jolene or Tom Dernoga? Or God forbid she's got to go ask Ed Burrows for a favor. You know, after the hell she gave him for all the years on school board, all the just the nastiness, the
including the chair who now has a hearing for review.
Yeah.
And now she's got to go to those people and ask them for their votes. Belinda, I hope that she's got to call upon you and ask you for your vote.
And you said it. So that's the plot when you think about it. 25th district team with Denise, 24th district team with Barbara, and I'm sure there's another team that's going to probably pick someone else. Is to make sure we get anybody but Belinda in there. But it don't matter because I'm coming, and they can ask all they want because my vote will always be for the people. Even the developers that I work with on a coalition will always tell you that Belinda always negotiated for the people, and they know that it will always be for the people.
I'm not against development, but the developers have to pay their permits. They have to build the sidewalks. They have to do the sewer lines. They have to make the improvements. They've got to do all those things. You know, I mean, so
and come with good material, because I'm telling you, we've had some developers that tried to come with cheap brick, cheap material. All of that is so important, and we have to pay close attention to that. That's what happened to some of the schools, Anthony. You remember some of the schools we walked to, Ernest Just, the walls with holes and falling apart. That school is not that old for it to be doing that. Columbia Park Elementary School, I went to elementary school there, and I'll be 60 next week. It's older than that, and they don't have holes in the walls like that. So that's the material that they're using at these new schools. No. So we have to hold them accountable. That's so very important.
Yep.
Keep in mind, they paid for the best materials. They were paid to do the job. They were paid for the best materials. They were paid to fix the school. And then it didn't get inspected. It didn't get caught. Nobody paid any attention to it. And somebody got an envelope full of money and was able to send their kid to Disney World. Well, you know something? Let them get a part-time job and save up if they want to send their kid to Disney World or if they want to do any of these other things. They've got a responsibility not to take the bribes. And that's what it is. We're talking about bribery is rampant.
And we're talking about a lot of bribery. Because when we looked at the repairs that are needed in our school, it made me so mad when I seen how work orders had to constantly be put in for things that I've heard the maintenance man said we've already put in a work order for, and there's some reason they get thrown out and we got to put another one in. So what? Someone is saying they got paid for it already? Enough is enough. Enough of that taxpayers' dollars being lost. We got to start holding people accountable. And we got to, just like you said, we got to make sure inspections are done, even on our school systems. It's so very, in our schools, it's so very important. No difference. I'm gonna be honest with you, I've even heard with our fire department needs to even be a little bit more harder on our school system. When we know schools are missing things that they're supposed to have, shut them down. I'm sorry. Yes, it may be thousands of kids missing out of school, but if we as a county, if not doing what we're supposed to do, then that will make us step up. That will make us do what we're supposed to do. But as long as we keep giving people a slap on the hand, they're going to continue to do what they do.
The problem is
say
our
something about District
representatives
41,
are not
Chris's district.
representative of the people. So when someone comes to a representative and says that they have a contract that they're supposed to fulfill, what background does that representative even bring to the discussion? We have representatives that don't represent the trades. They have no expertise in these areas that they oversee. When we talk about some of the biggest industries that come through our construction, transportation, waste removal, if you look at our representation in the General Assembly or your different city councils, what trades are actually represented so that they're bringing any basis of knowledge to these positions? Are they actually representative of the collective? And I would say no.
Chris, you're running for office in my old home district. 4 years ago, I lived in not far from the intersection of Gwen Oak and Liberty. And, you know, one of the things I saw was, I lived about 4 blocks from the ShopRite. That was my supermarket. I love that place. They've got the best onion rolls in the state of Maryland. But I digress. One of the things I want to say was we had a crooked senator in there, and nothing ever got done. And he got sent to jail, I think. And I don't want to put the guy down, but then we got a young I think of her as young, a young Spitfire senator named Jill P. Carter. And when Jill P. got into office, suddenly we got new curbs, we got new sidewalks. They started fixing potholes just down the street from my house. There was a burnt out shell of a house that sat there for a number of years, rats, and it was a bad scene. Jill came in. One of the mothers in the neighborhood went to her about it, and next thing you know, the whole thing was cleaned up and graded. I mean,
well, I often ask,
District 41 need honest representation.
We need actual advocates.
Yes.
How many times do we challenge as candidates the incumbents on what advocacy did you represent prior to running? And if you weren't an advocate before now, being an elected representative should be the progression of your advocacy. You're actually being brought forward to be more of an advocate. So to go in based on the vote of the people, but then to represent the positions of developers and what have you, is just, at some point, I stopped blaming the elected officials. I start to look at the people and realize as important as voter registration is, we need to get back to voter education and getting people to realize the value of knowing who candidates are before they get to you. If they have to introduce themselves to you and there really is no relatability, oh, I've heard of you from so-and-so or from such and such an issue. If you're learning of someone totally bare bones at the time, to me, that can be problematic. People should be available, should be known to their constituency prior to running. And too many times we're settling for, we're in positions where we just have to pick one of one or one of three or one of two, and not actually having a body of people to come forward. We don't have social institutions anymore. We don't even have social space in Baltimore City, where ideas can be tossed around, where constituent groups, where actual stakeholder groups can be formed based on issues and not on politics. We don't have that anymore. We have more democratic clubs than we actually have social space where organic movements start because of the issue, and again, not because of the politics. We need advocates again.
We definitely need that in Prince George's County, because it seems like it's a popularity contest when people run for office, and nobody really looks at the issues or accomplishments and hold our elected officials accountable, because they get away with so much, and that's across the board on all platforms. Even when me and Richard was walking around today in District Heights, they had people. We hear stuff from people that I didn't even know about myself. So I'm like, whoa, who told you that about me? That's not even true. You know what I'm saying? Like, who lied to you about me? If you never heard of Make Smart Cool, then we need to do better. But don't say you heard of us and this and this and this, and that's not accurate. No. Like, don't talk bad about somebody that you haven't talked to personally and seen what we actually working on in real life. And I say this all the time. I say, be great in real life, not just on social media, because some of us out here working in real life, making change for our own communities, and we're not, bragging about it on social media every single time.
And I think you said something that's so very important, Anthony. I think a lot of the residents out here, and as we're out here live, you guys, let me share with you guys. Make sure when you ask people, because some of us ask people that we know we depend on them forever. Who should I be voting for? Who's the candidate? But let's make sure the people you are asking have done their work. Don't just vote for people because they say this is the person I'm supporting. This is who you should support. Don't just vote for people because you get this ballot in the mail. And this is the senator slate. I'm gonna be honest with you. Don't vote for the senator slate. That's what you don't want to vote for. You don't want to give them all control over a slate, and they got everybody in doing what they're supposed to do. Always vote opposite of that. You don't want to do that. Have your own opinion, your own mind, and be independent. We have to make sure that we have leaders that are stand up, who will speak out, not someone who's supported by a senator and now they owe the senator. Not someone who's supported by a delegate, and now they owe the delegate, who's supported by, and no offense, I'm a union person, by unions and other people, and now they feel like that they owe them, or even another council member of a government, and now they feel like, I don't want to owe anyone. All I ask for is your vote as a resident. I ask that you support me, that you send me to County Council in District 6 to represent you. My vote will always be for the voice of the people. I will always use my own intuition, my own opinion, no matter who comes to me. And you learned that from the school board. It was a tuggle for me on the school board when I was being pushed. I'm not going to be honest, by the progressive and by appointed people, and I was being pushed both ways, but my decision has always been what's right for and by the people. And that's who we want to make sure that when we're getting out there to vote, that we're electing community members who will do right for and by the people. It is time to take our county back. It is time for us to make a difference. It is time to make sure that we're sending leaders to make sure that they're representing us, whether they're in the State House, whether they're in the White House, whether in Annapolis, or whether they're here locally. But they are community people who care about the community. We have enough people who work. And I'm gonna be honest with you, you have people who are hired. Once you're on a county council, I got people who work for me. That's their job. They get paid to work for us. They get paid by the people to work for us. But when you're elected by the people, you're paid to represent the people. So let's make sure that we're electing people who will represent.
Let's talk a little bit about the senator slates. I think that's a crucial point. It's a Prince George's County thing, but Mike Miller from Calvert County set up a system years ago. He was head of the he was president of the Maryland Senate for more than 35 years. He was a senator for at least 45 years. He went way back. And what he did was he set up a system that the senators owed their job to him. Okay, a senator had to be in line with Mike. Okay, that's that was if you weren't in line with Mike, you were in constant trouble. You were always having problems. Okay, and then the senators would have a slate. Mike would help provide the money. Mike provided the sample ballots. The whole thing depended on Mike putting it together because he could raise huge money as president of the Senate. He even drew out of state money. Also, Steny Hoyer was part of that machine, and he was kicking in. He was raising a lot of money for the Miller machine. And then they'd go on into a place and they'd pick out who they thought was their sort of person. In other words, they picked out the people they thought would do what they were told. That was the main requirement to be on a Mike Miller sample ballot, was to do what you are told. And that's not the right look for somebody who's in public office in Prince George's County. You should be doing what you know is right for the voters instead of doing what you're told by the bosses. And Mike died. And I'm sure his family feels terrible, and I said a prayer for him and all that stuff. But, it's good not to have him in this race, because now we're fighting back. We're fighting to take the county back.
And Barry, the fall of Miller, or the removal of Miller, has now made it where in the governor's race, there are wide factions of who people support. Under a Miller and Bush system, supporting Francho might get you removed from your committee.
It might cost you your job if you work for the state, or if you work for a county government. You could get fired if you were supporting Peter Francho.
Right. But now we have where there's a wide coalition of people, even in the General Assembly, where Francho is widely disliked, who support him. There's a lot of people in the General Assembly who support Wes Moore. There's some who support Tom Perez. But we have gotten to a point now, fortunately, where many electeds are at the very least making up their own minds on who to support. And particularly in Prince George's, let me show the listening audience something. We've got individually made ballots coming about for the first time. And I think that across the county, there may be 50 or 60 different ballots that are seen in this election cycle. Madam Queen, do you want to say anything about sample ballots? And
even dealing with sample ballots, you guys, just make sure you look for your candidate. That's what I always say. Look for the candidate. If you don't see the candidate you support, and I've heard people say, you know what, if anything come in the mail, Belinda, I have a lot of my family members saying that, and I don't see your name on it, I'm throwing it in trash. And people are doing that. They're not playing. But as you was talking about the political machine, rest his soul, rest in peace, Mike Miller. What bothers to me the most is that some of the senators that are out here now, who are elected as senators, and some of the ones who are running again, used to complain about the control that Mike Miller had, and about the control, how a senator can control and choose who they want. But yet they're doing the same thing. They're doing the same thing with their ballot. They're coming together what they call a senator team and their team, and they're saying, well, I get to choose that because I'm a senator. Well, you know what? And I'll be honest with you, you're no different. Your head has gotten so big that you'll put yourself no different from what Mike Miller. So I've heard a lot of people complain about the Mike Miller, the political machine, but now you're doing the same thing. Now you're taking it among yourself to do what you were complaining about. You complained about that same political machine, but you're doing it now for yourself. So that's what's so puzzling to me as you were talking about that, Barry. They complained about that. They hated that, but here it is now. They're doing it. They're doing it as senators. Now I'm going to put who I want. This is who I want for school board. This is who I want for county council. This is who I want. You're doing the same thing. What's the difference?
Are you talking to me or Richard?
I'm just saying about to you what you were talking about, how Mike Miller was the political machine and how he set the ballot for who was going to be on it. But now the senators are doing that now. They're setting their own ballot for who they want to be on it. So
Yeah,
actually,
she's not criticizing my ballot because I paid for mine, I distribute mine, but there's a big difference between individual legislators finding out a group effort versus an individual getting $20,000 in developer donations, automatically putting that into mailers. In fact, Miller appears to have just had such, oh, look, it's our good friend. We got a good friend. Hello, sir. There's a big difference between sending off a whole bunch of mailers and really Miller having so much control of the process that I dare to say a lot of the senators actually could not do what he did, even if they had the money. We have a new guest. This is Jake Burdett of the Progressive Democrats of Howard County, candidate for Democratic Central Committee. Mr. Burdett, do you want to say hello to the listening audience?
Yeah, hello everybody, and thank you to Richard and everybody for having me on. As Richard said, I'm Jake Burdett, running for Democratic Central Committee in Howard County. I'm actually running with the slate of 16 others for Democratic Central Committee. All of our seats are countywide, so we're running a 17-person slate called HOCO for Us. Check us out, hocoforus.com. But to tie that into what everybody else is talking about, I'm really, because we're running against an opposing slate, and I'm hoping that, our local Democratic Party doesn't try to use that same sample ballot trick that I know that they have been using in Prince George's for a long time to keep the machine going.
Well, let me just say to you, Jake, I think it's so very important, and I thank you for running for Democrat Central Committee. A lot of people don't realize because they look at it, it's a non-paying position and all you doing is getting out and registering voters. But I believe, and I'm going to tell you guys that is the best position to be a part of the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, the Independent Party. If you're part of the Central Committee, you are the foundation that hold up that party. And what better? It takes a foundation. Without the foundation, the party will fall. So I'm telling you, it was troublesome to me as a lot of young people want to come and they want to run straight into senator. They want to run straight into Congress, but they haven't served the people. They haven't served the people out in the community. They haven't served the people on a Democrat Central Committee. So I always give kudos when I hear someone who wants to run for Democrat Central Committee, who wants to take their time to not only register voters, educate voters, and to show us how you want to vote when you have the opportunity to vote, because I think it's so very important. So I just want to say to you guys, for anybody who's running for that position, that you are the foundation of whatever party, whether it's the Democrat Party, Republican Party, Independent, and it is so very important. So please don't take your position lightly. That is a very important position. People really, they give a lot of kudos, and when you come to, they was like they're gonna recognize the Congress and the governor. But I'm gonna tell you, in my heart, you guys have the best position. Because you register voters, you get the voters out, you get them registered, you educate the voters, you engage the voters, and you get them to the polls. So thank you for your service.
Well, thank you. And yeah, it's Central Committee. It's important for a lot of different reasons, and one of the most important is the Central Committee. If you're on the Central Committee, you can choose to either represent the grassroots and the voters of the Democratic Party, or you can choose to represent the party leadership and the elected officials. And far too often, I think Central Committee members just get in there and start to listen to the party bosses and get very disconnected with what the actual grassroots base of the party wants. And that very much matters when it comes to Central Committees have the power to appoint legislative vacancies when the state delegate or state senator resigns. And if you just have a bunch of puppets of the elected officials on the Central Committee, and then there's a vacancy, you're not going to get a grassroots person. You're going to keep the machine going. And that's what's been happening for decades.
That's been happening. And I'm telling you, as a person who served on a Central Committee from 2014 and 2018, I got the call several times when we had to replace people. You get all of a sudden your elected leaders, people you know calling you and trying to tell you how to vote. Use your own mind, your intuition, do what you know is right. Make sure you're going to vote for a candidate who's going to be a candidate that's going to serve the district that is vacant and that's going to represent the people. Don't listen to the promises. Oh, if you vote this way, we're going to make sure that if something come up, we're going to get you in that position. No. Don't fall for the okie dokie. Do the right thing.
Real quick on that exact note, there have been, I will say, at least rumors that Delegate Marvin Holmes and Delegate Darrell Barnes would leave their positions to pursue leadership roles within the Franchot administration. Mr. Tillman and I are both running for the Central Committee. I'm going to remain mum since I'm the host. Mr. Tillman, what kind of candidates would you want to replace? You don't have to say names, but what qualities do you seek in the individuals that will replace Delegates Holmes and Barnes under the situation I just discussed?
Especially Delegate Barnes, who's in your district.
Well, I worked with Delegate Barnes, for a while, and he's a great advocate and also a great community leader. So, I would want somebody to follow the same suit, because he's there. He you can call him on the phone. You can complain about issues, and you can just you can hold him accountable, because you see him a lot. I mean, he does. I think he does like an event every month. So he's a person that you can pull up on and say, hey, this is what I think of you. Now, I think every person that's running for office should share that characteristic, where you can just hold them accountable, and just be a eye for just a conversation about what's going on. And I think that's what we don't really have. And whoever replaces him should definitely make a hopefully, like Belinda said, they are in the community. They are really advocating. They're really taking their role very seriously, because you're not just a legislator. You're a representative of the whole district, and people look out to you for advice. Now, at the first week that when I got the job for Nick Charles, and he called me, said, Anthony, I want you to be my constituent services person. The first thing I did that first week is pretty much go around to every pothole and report every pothole in the district. Just drove around for like 2 hours and just reported every single pothole.
Woo, that's a lot.
And made sure that,
I said, I see you, Don Schaefer.
Go ahead, Anthony.
Oh yeah, so yeah, that's the first thing I did, is reported every pothole, and then I followed up every week and made sure that every pothole was done. Even potholes that wasn't even my district. I remember I called Calvin Hawkins on a pothole that was in Upper Marlboro, and I complained about it because it was in front of my favorite smoothie place, which is Smoothie King, right there in Watkins Park. And I took a picture of it and I sent it to. Reported it, and then I sent it to Calvin Hawkins, and the next day it was done. So sometimes you gotta just go out there and just do your job, and then of course when you're dealing with constituents, I give people my number and say, look, you can text me, you can call me if you have any issues, and I personally will come to your house and help out. And I want people to know, is Washington, Make Smart Cool was the first nonprofit in Prince George County giving out masks day one.
Yes, they were.
And Make Smart Cool is the only nonprofit in Maryland that gives scholarships to students and teachers. Fact number 2. And and I want people to know that we do this out here for real. And me and Belinda, and one thing I will say about Belinda Queen is, me and Belinda, we actually visited schools in District 5 when they had a vacancy. We was out there at District 5. So, we worked for the whole issue. Like one thing I really admired about Belinda is I can call her about something that's happening in any district. We had issues. We solved issues in District 7, District 8, District 2, District 5. It wasn't, whoever needed help.
Come on now.
Whoever needed help, we was there. And that's what as a representative, this standard you should set is like, whoever need help, whoever sends me an email, I don't even care what district you in. We helped you. And that email got to Dr. Golson, and she called her staff, and we followed up. I mean, if you look at all the emails me and Belinda went through Dr. Golson, she probably would just get mad. I mean, it's hundreds. Like we got an email like every week. And I tell every board member that's running for Board of Education, I hold you accountable because I'm doing your work too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm doing your job better than you. And whoever's on the Board of Education, they know me. They say, hey, Belinda tell you, I send everyone an email every year. and invite them on the education roundtable. And I say, you come on there and promote yourself. I give everybody a spotlight to come on the education roundtable and promote their accomplishments for that year. And
I think
year,
Anthony, you answered your question that you know, that Richard asked, who would he want to replace Daryl Bonds, and he wants someone just like that, someone who's going to be accountable across the county, someone who's going to answer every email, and that's what he's saying. You know, that's what he wants. He wants someone who's going to be boots off the ground, but make sure that you're accountable, a stand-up person for the people, and that would be the choice. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Look, you know, I'm a little biased because when I get on the county council, and I'm going to get on there, I'm going to claim it, Lord knows. Then, you know, I think somebody like Waller will be great for that seat at 25, you know, because she's been a great advocate, you know. So, you know, you want someone who's going to be an advocate for the people. So that's very important, definitely for 25 and for 20, the same thing, to make sure that it's someone who's going to be an advocate and a voice of the people. And that's what he was saying. You know, you want someone who's going to do that. And that's so very important.
Yeah, I was going to ask Jake about governor in Howard County, just to know where his head is at and where the sign game is, but he left. So we can end the show here because it's been an hour and a half. Madam Queen, you want to give people some stats, how much literature you've given out, how many big signs you've got up, any of those kind of numbers you want to tell people?
Yes, I just want to take the opportunity to say to everyone who has already supported, thank you so very much for supporting the campaign. If you're able to support, please go to votebelindaqueen.com, make a donation. My birthday is coming up, you guys, June the 7th. I will be 60 plus. If you can make a birthday donation, it will definitely go toward the campaign, because it's all about making a difference from you guys. I mean, I've been investing in this. I'm investing my heart and my soul in it because I believe that we have to take back our community. My grandmother always say, you know, you can't talk about it, you have to be about it. And I'm about making a difference. I'm about standing up, speaking out, and being the voice of the people who can't. A lot of you have to work. You have to take care of your families. You can't do that, but you can trust and believe that my vote will always be for the people, and I will represent you. As Richard stated, we have 75 large billboard signs across the county. We have, actually, we only have like 200 or 300 out, but we will be flooding 500 of the small signs out. 100 more will be going out over the next month, and then we'll save the last 100 for early voting. And we have 100 of the regular size yard sign, which is a bonus sign. And I just want to thank each and every one of you. I know you guys are smart voter, educated voters, and you know what's so very important, that, as I stated before, that we get out the vote. And we vote for someone who not only is going to be the voice of and for the people, but who is a person who will not take bribes from the developer, who's a person who is a person of integrity. And that's so very important, you guys, a person who has character, but most of all, a person who's on a mission, and a mission has to be a mission for the people and for the betterment of District 6. I have 4 wonderful sisters, all of them women, so I call them sisters. We're all running for this position. And I'm not going to say that none of them are qualified, because we're all qualified. But I will say that I am the best candidate. I'm the candidate that you know without a doubt, with a proven record. I'm the only candidate who have experience. I've been elected twice by the people. And from both of my positions, you have seen from 2014 until now that my vote has always done and been right by the people. And I will continue to do that. And thank you for that opportunity, Rich.
Okay, we can end the show here. Thank you all for coming on, and we'll do another one in 2 weeks and invite another group of people to figure out what's going on in the state. All right,
happy Memorial Day to everybody. Be safe out there, and definitely keep your eyes and your ears watching.
Yes, ma'am. All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
End broadcast.